My father is the supreme torch dragon and my mother is the noble yin dragon. But I was reborn as a failed torch dragon cub, a useless defect seen only once in a century. My own parents wanted to kill me just because I came from a double-yolk egg. You see, Dragon Custom dictates that only one hatchling is raised per clutch, if there are more. They eat the weakest one. Even though my parents didn't devour me, they threw me into the deadliest monster dungeon to let me rot and die alone. But when I opened my eyes again, I realized I was still breathing. I had 3 broken ribs and my internal organs were a total mess. I'm so weak from hunger right now that if I don't find something to eat soon, the monsters won't even need to kill me. I'll just starve to death right here. I'm a torch dragon, even if I'm a defective product. I still have the innate Devour talent as long as I can swallow it. I can turn it into energy to heal my body and even strengthen my bloodline. This is my only hope for a comeback. Right then, I heard a scraping sound. A black beetle the size of a human head slowly crawled into view. I didn't need a system screen to tell me what it was, my dragon bloodline's memory instantly identified it. It's a corrosive beetle, the bottom feeder scavenger of this dungeon. It's a level 0. This thing is actually bigger than I am, but I don't have a choice. I have to devour it if I want to survive. Before it can spot me, I launch myself like a spring. I didn't go for its hard shell, I aimed straight for the beetle's softest spot, its underbelly, that tiny gap between its head and chest. My baby teeth are sharp but fragile, but with the boost of my dragon strength, they sink right into the soft meat of its joint. The beetle lets out a piercing screech, thrashing its body wildly, but I refuse to let go. I dig my 4 claws deep into its belly. Its massive mandibles scrape across my back, shattering my fresh scales and leaving me a bloody mess. The pain is agonizing, but it only makes me more feral. I remember the Dragon Emperor's cold eyes and my brother's arrogant face. I remember how my mother never even bothered to look at me once. I can't die, I have to live. I'm going to eat every last one of you. I rip off a chunk of its flesh and swallow it. A wave of warmth explodes from my stomach, rushing through my entire body. Energy, I feel my strength returning. The wounds on my back are actually stopping their bleeding right before my eyes. The beetle's struggling slows down until it finally twitches and goes completely still. I start frantically tearing into the rest of the meat, but halfway through, the ground starts shaking violently. I snap my head up, a massive sense of dread washing over me. Behind me, a giant eye is staring me down once I see its silhouette. My skin crawls. It's a full-grown earth dragon, a mid-tier overlord of this dungeon. Its bloodline isn't as noble as a true dragon's, and it's pretty dumb, but it's tough. Has insane defense, and its strength is absolutely terrifying. For someone like me, this is a literal god of death. It's over. I closed my eyes in despair, waiting for the end, but after a long moment it never came. Confused, I peeked open one eye only to see that massive earth dragon right there. It didn't try to bite me. Instead, it brought its nose closer. It gave me a long, deep sniff, then suddenly pulled its head back. A series of low, strange sounds started rumbling from deep within its throat. It didn't sound threatening at all. It actually sounded curious, like it was asking me something. And then the most unbelievable thing happened. That giant dragon actually stuck out its rough, barbed tongue. It didn't try to grab me. It just started gently licking the bug blood right off my body. After cleaning me up, it seemed to realize who I was. A motherly warmth filled its eyes. She slowly lowered her massive body, resting her head on the ground right in front of me, letting out a soft, gentle whimper. She was gesturing for me to snuggle closer. It didn't take long for me to figure out what was going on. This dragon must have just given birth. She was in full mama bear mode. And since I have the torch dragon's blood in my veins to a lower tier earth dragon, that high-level aura felt familiar. It triggered a maternal instinct she couldn't ignore. She actually thinks I'm one of her babies while I was debating whether or not to play along with this little family reunion. My stomach gave a loud, pathetic growl. The dragon seemed to understand. She immediately got all worried. Her massive body shifted clumsily as she rolled onto her side, exposing her belly. There were several swollen pouches there, smelling like sweet, rich milk. Suddenly, a faint mental signal flashed directly into my mind. Eat. It wasn't words, but a wave of spiritual energy unique to high-level creatures. I stared at the flowing milk, my throat tightening as I swallowed hard. This was Earth Dragon milk, a pure essence of life drawn straight from the earth itself. For me in my current state, it was more valuable than any legendary spiritual treasure. I didn't hesitate for another second. I dove into her soft belly and started drinking greedily. This energy was 100 times purer than that bug blood and so much smoother. I could literally feel my shattered meridians knitting themselves back together. I don't know how long I was there, but eventually I couldn't take another sip. A wave of intense exhaustion hit me. My body was going into a deep healing sleep as I drifted off. I felt the dragon gently pick me up in her mouth and carry me deeper into the cave. Before long, she set me down in a nest lined with soft, dry grass. But the moment I hit the ground, I felt several cold glares fixed right on me. Tucked away in the corner were 3 baby earth dragons. They might have been cubs, but they were still twice my size. And right now, these 3 little guys were glaring at me like I was some kind of freakish intruder. The boldest one of the bunch stomped over and gave me a hard shove with its head. It was basically saying, "Get lost. This is my turf." I wasn't having it, so I bared my teeth and snarled right back. The little runt definitely didn't expect me to be so fierce. It actually flinched. That's when the mother dragon's massive head loomed over us, letting out a low, stern growl. She was clearly scolding her bratty kids, using her nose to pull me closer to her chest. The 3 little earth dragons and I huddled together. They weren't exactly thrilled about it, but under their mother's stern gaze, they had no choice but to wiggle over grumpily, snuggling up tight against her belly. Surprisingly, I felt a sense of safety I hadn't known in ages. I closed my eyes with a faint smile. "Since you guys took me in, then from today on, this is my home. Anyone who messes with you, I'll eat 'em alive." When I woke up again, I found the mother dragon and her 3 cubs were already geared up and ready to go. She gestured for me to follow. Today was an outdoor day for monsters living in the dungeon. The nest might be safe, but staying there forever means starving to death. Plus, the little ones need to learn how to survive, stepping out of the hidden cave. The view suddenly opened up. It was a vast underground cavern plain, with stalactites hanging everywhere. In the distance, massive shadows loomed in the dark, and bone-chilling roars echoed through the air. I knew that with my current strength, I wouldn't last 500 meters without Mom. I'd be nothing but a snack. Mother Dragon led us to a relatively open rocky area. This place was crawling with low-level monsters called rock rats. They're quick but weak, the perfect target for practice. She stopped and gave a command by lightly tapping her tail on the ground. The 3 little dragons charged out excitedly. They were clunky, but they definitely had the power. The oldest one slammed headfirst into a boulder, sending the rock rats hiding underneath scurrying in a panic. The other 2 pounced clumsily. Their aim was terrible, but with those massive claws flailing around, they managed to squash one unlucky rat. The whole scene was pure chaos. It wasn't even a hunt. It was more like a demolition project. I just watched from the sidelines, unimpressed by their brainless brute force tactics. I was keeping my eye on a slightly larger, clearly more cunning rock rat king. That thing didn't just run blindly like the others. It huddled in a blind spot, staring intently at the rampaging little dragons, looking for an escape route. The moment the eldest brother turned to chase another rat, leaving his back wide open, that rat king made its move. It bolted across the ground like a flash, heading straight for the bushes. "You think you're getting away?" My pupils narrowed instantly. In that split second, the world seemed to slow down by half a beat. This wasn't just my imagination, it was the awakening of my torch dragon bloodline. The passive effect of the Eye of Time. Even though I couldn't control time at will yet, under extreme focus, my dynamic vision could track objects moving at incredible speeds. I saw the trajectory of the Rat King's muscles and pinpointed its weakness right before the Rat King could vanish. Into the bushes, I lunged forward like a spring, my baby teeth sinking perfectly into its neck right at the spine. For an instant kill. The whole thing took less than 3 seconds. By the time the three little dragons who were still scrambling around realized what happened, their eyes nearly popped out. It was like they were seeing their useless little brother for the first time. Just then things took a sharp turn. A frantic scuttling sound echoed from the cracks in the surrounding rocks. Mother Dragon, who had been watching her kids play with a loving gaze, suddenly stiffened. A sudden roar rips through the air. She stands tall, shielding her 4 cubs. Right after that, countless black-jointed legs start crawling out from under the ground. It's the carrion scorpions. These things are pack hunters that move in massive swarms. Even though an individual is only rank 1, they usually hunt in groups of hundreds or even thousands. The stinger on their tail can paralyze a bull in a heartbeat. But the worst part, they're incredibly greedy and never forget a grudge. Once they catch a whiff of blood, they won't stop until you're dead. The Mole King's blood just invited a whole army of reapers. A thick wave of black scorpions pours in like a tide. The circle around us is closing in fast. The 3 little earth dragons have never seen anything like this. They're huddled together, paralyzed with fear. They're shivering behind their mother's back. Mom is powerful, sure, but she's just one dragon. Plus, these scorpions are small and lightning fast. They're aiming right for her joints and belly, the spots where her armor is thin. In the blink of an eye, dozens of them have already crawled up. They swarm Mom's back, driving their stingers in like crazy. She lets out a pained roar, rolling violently on the ground to crush the enemies on her back. But that just gives more scorpions a chance to rush the cubs. Damn it, my eyes go cold as I watch this. With my small size, I could probably hide in a crack and survive. But these big dumb brothers of mine, they'd be dead for sure. I look at my big brother. He's shaking like a leaf, but he's still trying to shield me. Then I look at Mom covered in blood, taking every hit just to protect us. The fire in my eyes suddenly blazes. I don't rush the swarm. Instead, I look at a wobbly stalactite pillar nearby. The base of that pillar is already almost completely corroded. It's hanging right over the hole where the scorpions are pouring out. Big guy. Smash that pillar, I let out a piercing screech. My big brother doesn't understand complex language, but he reads the look in my eyes perfectly. He roars, lowers his head, and puts every ounce of strength into his body. He executes a brutal headbutt right where I pointed. There's a massive explosion of sound. The fragile base of the pillar snaps. Tens of tons of rock come crashing down. It lands perfectly on the most crowded exit of the swarm. Hundreds of scorpions are turned into pulp instantly. The rest of the swarm is cut off by the sudden cave-in. A huge gap opens up in their formation. I roar again. Mom takes the chance to shake off the remaining scorpions and sprints back toward our territory with the 4 of us in tow. It's been 1 month since that encounter with the carrion scorpions. During this month, I've been hunting like a maniac in this territory. My body hasn't grown at the insane rate my brothers have. I'm still only about 1 meter long, but inside I've gone through a total transformation. My old dark red scales started falling off. They've been replaced by a deep black red scale armor. These new scales are incredibly tough. Your average rank 1 beast can't even scratch me now. Most importantly, my stomach has become a bottomless pit, no matter how much I eat. As long as I use the breathing technique from my inherited memories, all that meat turns into pure energy in no time. Right now, I'm perched on a high rock outside the nest, just watching. For the past few days, the entire dungeon has been eerily quiet. Normally at this time, the abyss jungle in the distance would be echoing with the roars of beasts. But now you can barely hear a single living thing. I narrow my eyes and scan the area. Suddenly I spot something. Low-level creatures on the edge of the territory are swarming toward the upper levels of the dungeon. Is this a monster outbreak? Usually those are pure chaos. But this migration, it looks more like they're running from an approaching king. A low, uneasy growl echoes behind me. Mom has come out looking worried. She's incredibly restless, her massive claws digging nervously into the dirt. As an earth elemental beast, she's the first to feel even the slightest tremor. She can clearly sense something invading this area at high speed. A massive, terrifying presence is coming, suddenly. Mom lets out a sharp roar toward the nest, telling my 3 sleeping brothers, "Wake up, we need to move now." But it's too late. A deafening crash explodes right in our ears. The whole cave starts shaking violently, then a roar full of pure rage erupts from the front of the territory. A massive dark shadow slowly emerges. It's a blood-maned mad lion, an apex predator from the 4th floor. A full-grown one is at the peak of rank 3, but right now this former king looks absolutely pathetic. It's running for its life. This rank 3 beast is being hunted by something else, panicked and desperate. It crashes straight into Mom's territory, blinded by fear and agony. Its eyes have turned a deep blood red. It's completely lost its mind. When it sees us, its first instinct isn't to go around. It's a twisted urge to kill, to vent its own terror. It roars and charges. Mom lets out a desperate scream. "Run! Get out of here! Take your brothers and go!" Her massive body lunges forward, and the two beasts collide with a sickening thud. Even though the lion is hurt, it's still a lethal predator, a whole rank higher than a herbivorous earth dragon. Its claws are still razor sharp, instantly shredding the stone armor on Mom's shoulder, leaving 3 deep bloody gashes. Mom cries out in pain, but she sinks her teeth into the lion's neck, using her weight to try and pin him down. My brothers are paralyzed with fear, huddled in the corner and shivering. I don't run. Instead, I hide behind a massive boulder, coldly watching the battlefield. If Mom loses, we're all dead. I have to do something. My eyes scan the lion's body. Where is it? Where's the weakness? My gaze finally locks onto the lion's scarred front leg, an old injury, its biggest opening. Just as Mom is pinned down with those sharp fangs aiming for her throat, in that split second I spring out. With a clear target, I lunge through the air and sink my teeth in, right into the open wound on its broken leg. The agony surges through the lion, causing its body to stiffen for one fatal moment. Mom seizes the chance. Her tail, heavy as a battering ram, slams into the lion's head. Then jagged stone spikes erupt from the ground, skewering the lion's soft underbelly. The fight is finally over. The lion's massive frame collapses to the ground. After a few final twitches, it stops moving forever. We won. We actually survived that nightmare. Mom was gasping for air, her body covered in deep, jagged wounds. Yet her eyes were filled with relief at having survived and pure shock when she looked at me. She lowered her head gently, licking the top of mine with such tenderness. I didn't lean into her touch. Instead, my eyes were locked on the direction the blood-mad lion had just fled from. That beast was dead, sure, but the nightmare that drove it to run for its life was still out there. And then it happened. A figure stepped out from the shadows. This wasn't some 4-legged beast like a dragon or a lion. It was a creature walking upright, a massive ape standing nearly 8 meters tall. His entire body was covered in thick black fur that looked as tough as a suit of armor. He was dragging a massive white bone club behind him, a Rift Earth demonic ape. The true ruler of the dungeon's 5th floor, a high-ranking magical beast with the intelligence of a human child. The sheer pressure radiating from him was close to rank 5. Right then, only one word flashed through my mind. Run! This wasn't a fight, it was a slaughter waiting to happen. Mom clearly realized it too. She spun around instantly. Using her head, she shoved my 3 terrified, paralyzed siblings, desperately pushing them toward the backup tunnel deep within the cave. That was our last way out. Mom turned her gaze toward me, silently pleading with her eyes for me to get inside. I grit my teeth, fighting through the numbness in my limbs. I managed to keep pace with my brothers, but we were moving way too slow. Seeing his prey scrambling to escape, the demonic ape didn't even bother to give chase. He just tilted his head, seemingly amused by the pathetic struggle of these ants. Then he raised that massive bone club toward the ceiling of the cave dozens of meters away and casually swung. Just one effortless swing. The entire rocky ceiling collapsed in an instant. Hundreds of tons of boulders came crashing down, slamming with terrifying precision right onto the entrance to the escape tunnel. Our only way out was completely cut off. The shockwave knocked me flat on my back, leaving my mouth full of dust and grit. When I finally looked up, my heart sank to the bottom of my stomach. The ape in front, a dead end behind. We were trapped like rats in a cage. The ape let out a satisfied grunt and slowly strolled over too. The carcass of the blood-mad lion, steam was still rising from its fresh body. The ape reached out with a massive black hand, grabbed the lion, and stuffed it into his mouth, crunching away. He ate while staring us down with those mocking eyes, watching the dragon family huddled in the corner. This anticipation of death. It was more agonizing than death itself. My 3 siblings had completely lost it. The 2 youngest buried their heads in the dirt, paralyzed. Only the oldest, though, shaking like a leaf, forced himself to stand, shielding his younger brothers. Mom's stone armor had already been smashed to pieces during the fight with the lion. She was running on empty, her stamina and mana were pushed past their breaking point. But she still stood up with everything she had, putting herself between that monster and her babies. She knew she was going to die, but she was going to take one last gamble. She was betting her life that she could buy her children even just 1 second of life. I was hiding in the shadow of a rock, my mind racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. The ape finished his meal and hoisted that white bone club, heading straight for our corner. That's when Mom moved. She let out the loudest, most primal roar of her life and threw her massive body right at the ape. But the monster just curled his lip in a look of pure disgust. Just as they're about to collide, the giant ape sidesteps. He's as agile as a monkey. Then he raises that massive bone club high into the air. With crushing force, he slams it down right onto the mother dragon's spine. Her spine snaps instantly. The mother dragon collapses like a heap of broken clay. She struggles to get up, but she's completely flattened. Her lower body is totally paralyzed. She can only claw at the dirt with her front legs. Dragging her broken body, she still tries to crawl in front of her babies. She lets out a gut-wrenching wail and turns her head toward me. There's no pain in her eyes, only a desperate plea. Please just take them and run. My eyes sting with tears. 20 said, "You bastard," I scream inside my head. My eyes are burning with rage. But right then, the ape seems annoyed by how stubborn she is. Like she's just an eyesore, he raises his foot and stomps on her head. He grinds her face into the mud. Then his gaze shifts past her toward the 3 tender little dragons. He peels back his lips, showing a mouth full of rotten yellow teeth. He reaches out and grabs the oldest brother, the biggest of the bunch. Big Bro is terrified, but for some reason he doesn't try to hide. Instead, he clumsily opens his mouth and tries to bite the ape's finger. But it's like an ant trying to move a mountain. The ape just gives a casual flick. Big Bro's head bursts open like a ripe watermelon. No scream, not even a struggle. The big guy who always loved to bump into me. He was a bit of a goofball, but he always saved the best meat for me. And just like that, he's a headless corpse. The whole world feels like it's stopped. I just stare blankly at his body. I see the 2nd and 3rd brothers frozen in terror. Before I can breathe, the ape's hand grabs the 2nd brother. One short, sharp scream, and he's crushed into a pulp. He's slaughtering them. He's enjoying it like he's just squashing bugs. A sound escapes my throat. It's a dragon's roar, high-pitched and immature, but overflowing with pure hatred. I charge out from the shadows. If I can't escape, then I'm taking a piece of you with me. I fly into a blind rage, charging at that invincible monster. My speed hits its absolute limit. This is the survival instinct I've sharpened over countless life and death moments. I don't aim for his thick hide, and I don't go for his throat. I know I can't break through those. My target is his eye. The ape clearly didn't expect a pathetic little red lizard to actually fight back. I'm moving so fast that by the time he even realizes it, I've already scurried up his arm and onto his shoulder. I lunge with my jaws wide, aiming straight for his left eye. I miss the eyeball itself, but my razor-sharp fangs tear right through his eyelid. Blood sprays everywhere. It coats his left eyes in red. The agony makes the ape let out a roar that shakes the earth. Enraged, he swings his massive hand, trying to swat me off his shoulder like a mosquito. I feel the crushing air pressure and try to dodge, but I've got nothing to kick off of in midair. That giant hand slams into me with the force of a high-speed train. In that split second, I feel my internal organs shift and rupture. Every bone in my body shatters. I'm sent flying, crashing violently into the jagged rock wall. I hit the ground and rolled several times before finally coming to a stop. I forced my mouth open. I spat out a thick glob of blood mixed with bits of my own organs. I can't even get up anymore. It feels like my spine is snapped and I've completely lost all feeling in my back legs. My vision is starting to fade. The whole world has turned a sickening shade of blood red. This is the true gap in our strength. All it took was one single blow. In the distance, the magic ape is clutching his bleeding eye. That monster isn't in any rush to kill me. No, he wants to take his time and torture me slowly. He wants to break this tiny little thing that actually dared to wound his eye. Bone club in hand, he's closing in one heavy step at a time. But right at that moment, something happened. The mother dragon, who had been crushed into the dirt. Even with her spine shattered, she somehow found a surge of strength from deep within. She actually started to move again. She lifted her head, her face completely covered in blood. She glanced at those 3 mangled piles of flesh in the distance, and a look of pure agonizing sorrow flashed in her eyes. Then that sorrow hardened into a terminal resolve. She opened her mouth wide. That originally gentle, earthy yellow light began to swirl and gather inside her throat with a violent intensity. That's her magic core. She's literally igniting her own soul. The ground around us began to tremble. Countless stone spikes shot up like jagged teeth. They erupted from beneath the ape's feet. Even though they couldn't pierce through his thick hide, they successfully ground his advance to a halt. The magic ape was absolutely livid. He spun around, raised that massive bone club high, and began to rain down blows on the mother dragon. 1, 2, 3. Each strike was followed by the sickening crunch of bones and the wet, heavy thud of tearing flesh. She didn't fight back, and she didn't even scream. She just used her broken body to block that corner. She was a wall cutting off the ape's path to me. Her life force was draining away second by second. Finally, the ape seemed to grow tired of the slaughter, or maybe he just thought she was nothing but a pile of dead meat. He finally stopped. Panting heavily, he wiped the blood from his eyes. He stood there for a moment trying to recover his strength. That frantic outburst of violence, along with his eye injury, had left him needing a brief moment to catch his breath. Seizing that tiny window, the mother dragon painfully turned her head. She looked at me lying there paralyzed on the ground. Half of her skull had been crushed inward. That familiar mental connection flickered into my mind once again. She whispered, "My child, are they okay?" She was asking about the 3 little ones who had already been turned to mush, because she'd been face down in the mud. She hadn't seen that horrific scene. Or maybe she just couldn't bring herself to believe it was real. My heart twisted in a sudden sharp pang of agony. In this brutal, heartless world, this was the very last piece of warmth left. I looked at the mangled remains scattered on the ground. I forced down the metallic bitter taste of blood in my throat and sent a mental reply. "They're fine, they just passed out from the shock. By the time you wake up, they'll be awake too." That was the most pathetic, clumsy lie I've ever told in my life, but she chose to believe it, and that was enough. Her breathing grew faint and her mental voice began to sound hollow and distant. "Child, I know you don't really belong here. You're not like the rest of us. But in my heart, I've always seen you as my own." Hearing those words, I broke down sobbing uncontrollably. Don't cry in the depths of the dungeon. The sound of crying only draws the Grim Reaper closer. Her voice suddenly became stern. It was that final burst of clarity before the end. Her last moment of consciousness. "Listen to me, child. I'm not going to make it, but my body, it still holds the ancient power of the earth. Eat me!" I was stunned. I thought I'd heard wrong. "Eat me!" That mental pulse suddenly surged with power, heavy with a command that wouldn't take no for an answer. "This is my final gift. Don't waste a single drop. If you don't eat me, that monkey will, instead of letting that beast have me. Let me become part of you. Take my flesh and survive with your brothers." The voice cut off sharply as the last word echoed. The light in Mother Earth Dragon's eye flickered out forever. A deathly silence swallowed the cave. I could only stare at her lifeless body. Eat my mother, even if she was just a foster parent, even if we weren't the same species. But this past month, every day and night, that warm milk she gave me, the way she shielded me time and time again, she was the only home I had in this cold, dark world. And now I'm supposed to eat my family, I started to laugh hysterically. Is this the dragon's curse? Is this the absolute truth of the dungeon? Eat or be eaten. In the distance, the demon ape had finally caught its breath. It swung its bone club, a sadistic grin spreading across its face. Ready to finish off the last little survivor? My laughter died instantly. I looked up at the demon ape. My eyes were empty of all emotion. You're right, Mom. It's a sin to waste food. Fighting through the agonizing pain, I crawled inch by inch toward her body. I opened my mouth bearing fangs still stained with the ape's blood. If this godforsaken world won't let us live, then I'll swallow the grief. I'll swallow the mercy. I'll swallow the weakness. And then I'm going to grind you, you bastard monkey, into literal dust. I'm going to swallow you whole. My teeth sank into Mom's cold, broken flesh. The moment the meat hit my tongue, a tidal wave of raw energy, heavy with the scent of the deep earth, exploded inside me. The evolution had begun, but the demon ape in the distance, it wasn't in any hurry to stop the show. In its twisted, sick mind, watching prey turn on its own kind, watching cannibalism was the ultimate high. It even reached down, plucked up one of my little brothers from the ground, and crushed him into a pulp, stuffing him into its mouth like a casual snack. It made a disgusting smacking sound, looking at me with mocking eyes. Tastes pretty good. Keep eating. Get nice and fat so you'll taste better when it's your turn. That sight turned the flickering light in my eyes into a void of pure black ink. A mountain of hatred fused with the erupting energy in my gut, instantly shattering my sanity. It's so hot. Earth dragons are earth element beasts, and their flesh is packed with the crushing weight of the earth's essence. But as a torch dragon, I am fire and time. When the earth met the flame, there was no rejection. Instead, it was like capping a massive erupting volcano with miles of heavy rock. The more pressure it held, the more violent the explosion. I suddenly stopped eating and let out a scream of pure, unadulterated agony. I felt my body, felt every single vein bulging until they were ready to pop. Then came the tearing. The dark red scales that used to cover my body began to warp and shift, transforming into something new, a fusion of raw earth power and the undying fire of the torch dragon. Lava bone armor. My body is swelling up right before your eyes. 1 meter, 2 meters. 3 meters. In this moment, I'm no longer a noble dragon. I'm a nightmare crawling out of hell. A twisted monster born for revenge. That shattering earth ape over there just watching the show finally realizes something is very wrong. The mocking look in his single eye vanishes, replaced by a flicker of pure shock. As a high-intelligence beast, he can feel it clearly. That aura that used to be weak as a bug is skyrocketing rank 1, rank 2. The peak of rank 2, he's even touching the edge of rank 3. And hidden within that power, there's something else. Something that makes his very soul shiver. It's the raw pressure of a superior predator. It's faint, but it's real. His animal instincts are screaming at him. Kill this thing right now! The ape grabs his massive bone club. He's not playing around anymore. He charges with every bit of speed he's got. His massive frame kicks up a gale. A single stride covers over 10 meters. And in a heartbeat, he's right in my face. Die! The beast roars. He swings that bone club high with crushing force, aiming straight for my transforming skull. This hit could shatter solid rock. The same blow that snapped my mother's spine, but just as it's about to hit. Only half a meter away, those eyes shut tight and leaking tears of blood. Snap wide open, get lost. I don't even move. The club slams down, but the sound of bone crushing never happens. Instead, there's a deafening metallic crang. The impact numbs the ape's grip so bad he almost drops his weapon. Look at my back, those new bone spikes. They're moving like they're alive, merging with the surging lava energy. To form a massive lava shield, it was the Earth Dragon's Earth Guardian skill. But evolved by my torch dragon blood, it's not just a shield anymore. It's high heat reactive armor, that bone club of his. It's just bone, slamming into a shield that's thousands of degrees hot. The tip chars and burns, instantly sending up a cloud of acrid smoke. The ape howls in pain, stumbling back from the shockwave, staring at his ruined weapon in total shock as the smoke clears. I slowly stand up. I'm now 3.5 meters long, covered head to toe in heavy black and red diamond scales, standing there by my mother's body. I look down at my new claws pulsing with raw power. The weakness is gone. In its place is a surge of energy that could rip through steel. But I'm not smiling. I look at what's left of my mother, then at those 3 patches of gore on the ground, where my brothers were turned into nothing. Brothers, watch me. Watch me tear this damn monkey into 1,000 pieces. I slowly lift my head. My burning golden eyes locking onto that beast, my mouth curls back, revealing rows of jagged razor-sharp teeth. I let out a deafening roar, and the ground beneath me just shatters. I'm gone. I'm way too fast. Compared to before, my speed has tripled at the very least. The demon ape's vision blurred as a searing, blood-scented gust slammed into his face. Instinctively, he raised his bone club to block, but this time, that massive rock-hard bone club was like a brittle cracker under my claws. It snapped into 3 pieces instantly. My claws didn't slow down, tearing straight into the ape's chest. The demon ape's iron-tough fur, his pride and joy, was ripped apart like a wet rag by my new claws. Gashes deep enough to see bone exploded across his body before the blood could even spray. It was instantly vaporized by the searing heat radiating from my claws. The ape was driven mad by the pain. He never imagined that the roles of predator and prey could flip so damn fast. Roaring in fury, he tossed aside the broken bone and swung his massive fists, raining blows down on me like a storm. Come on then, I didn't even flinch. With the Earth Dragon's defense and the Torch Dragon's raw power, I'm going to crush this monkey's pride head on. His heavy punches slammed into me, shattering a few of my scales, even though the impact made me cough up blood. I didn't give a damn. I latched onto him like a rabid dog. You land a punch, I tear off a chunk of your flesh. This was the most primal, blood-soaked brawl imaginable. Before long, the battlefield had turned into a literal slaughterhouse. The demon ape staggered back, gasping for air. The look in his eyes had shifted from bloodlust to rage, and now he was terrified. One of his ears was gone, and his chest was a mangled mess of shredded meat. Even his already busted left leg, I made sure to give it some extra attention. I'd chewed through it until it was hanging by a single strip of skin. But I was in rough shape too. One of my horns was snapped in half and my left front leg was twisted at a grotesque angle. The new armor on my belly had been smashed to bits by one of his heavy strikes. But the fire in my golden eyes only burned hotter. I couldn't feel any pain. The physical agony was completely numbed by the sheer rush of revenge. Every wound I carved into him felt like a small tribute to my mother's spirit. The demon ape was losing his nerve. He might be a rank 4 overlord, but he's a coward who values his own life against someone who doesn't care if they die. That little bit of intelligence, he had just became a liability. He didn't want to die alongside a lunatic. Suddenly, he grabbed a handful of gravel from the ground and hurled it at my face, trying to blind me. Then he bolted, sprinting back toward the dark tunnel he came from. I sneered. You think you're leaving? Did you ask my mother for permission the second he turned his back? I did something absolutely insane. Instead of lunging for his back, I flexed every muscle in my body, channeling every last drop of Torch Dragon essence. Straight into my throat, I unleashed a massive blast of golden red flame. This was a skill someone at my level shouldn't even be able to use. The Torch Dragon's breath was just a basic flame for now, nowhere near powerful enough to burn the sky. But for a creature living in this damp, dark dungeon, it was his worst nightmare. I didn't aim the fire at his body, though. I aimed for his thick, greasy, blood-stained fur. It ignited instantly. The demon ape was transformed into a massive, screaming fireball. The agony of the flames eating his skin alive made him lose his mind completely. He shrieked, rolling frantically on the ground, desperate to put out the fire. But this flame carried the Torch Dragon's will. It stuck to him like a curse he couldn't escape. The flames won't go out. This is it. Now's my chance. I watched that flaming monkey rolling on the ground, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. I lunged forward, but I wasn't aiming for its vitals yet. Instead, I locked onto the demon ape's massive maw, wide open as it screamed in agony. Just moments ago, this mouth had devoured my brothers and mocked my mother. Roaring, I jumped right onto its chest and threw open my front claws. I gripped its jaws with everything I had, using every ounce of my explosive strength. I forced its mouth open to the absolute limit. The demon ape's eyes widened in sheer terror. It stared right at me, inches away, trying to bite down on my hands. But I didn't give it a damn chance. My tail tipped with its Morningstar bone spikes. Suddenly whipped up, I slammed it deep into the back of the beast's throat. My thick tail punched straight through its gullet. The demon ape's body went stiff as a board. After a couple of violent twitches, it finally went limp. I let the fire on its body burn out in silence. I won, but I wasn't celebrating. I turned and dragged my broken body step by agonizing step toward my mother's remains. I knelt before her, bowed my head, and whispered, "Mom." "I did it! I got them back! The monkey's dead!" I stayed there on my knees for a long time. I didn't move until the fire on the ape's corpse finally died out in the surrounding darkness. The rustling started again. Greedy scavengers had caught the scent of blood. They were testing the waters, creeping closer. I snapped my head up. The tenderness in my eyes vanished in a heartbeat, replaced by something even colder and even more ruthless. I let out a low snarl. I didn't even need to lift a claw. Just the sheer weight of my presence, a mix of dragon's pride and pure killing intent, was enough. Every living thing within 100 meters was scared absolutely witless. I stood up. I knew I couldn't stay here forever. This cave was ruined. The smell of blood would only draw in something far more dangerous. Maybe a level 5 or even a level 6 monster. I wasn't strong enough yet. I have to eat. I have to evolve. I looked down at what was left of my mother. I couldn't leave her for those insects to pick at. I took a deep breath and made my final choice. I opened my mouth to continue the unfinished ritual. I didn't cry this time, and I didn't hesitate, because I knew this wasn't just food. This was her way of staying by my side. As I swallowed the last fragment of bone, my body began to burn with heat again. The wounds on my back sealed up instantly, and my inner lava bone armor grew even thicker and darker. Then I turned to the demon ape. The flesh of a level 4 overlord was a massive power boost. I tore into my enemy's carcass, gorging myself while staring up at that sliver of light at the top of the cave. That dark entrance to the abyss, it led to the upper levels of the dungeon. It led to the legendary surface world, to the shimmering golden dragon palace. I whispered that name in my mind, the Dragon Emperor. Ao Qiong, just you wait for me. Since you bastards threw me into this hell, then I'll drag this hell all the way up to the heavens. After the last bite of meat, my whole body was on fire. Two massive opposing forces of energy were crashing around inside me. Finally, my dominant torch dragon bloodline forcibly crushed them down, refining them into a fuel I can only call destruction. My internal temperature was rising way too high. If I didn't find a way to cool down, I was worried I'd cook myself alive before I ever got stronger. I'd be boiled from the inside out. I need water. I'm sprinting through the dungeon, heading straight for the place where the air feels the dampest. After running for 30 minutes, that nasty sulfur smell finally starts to fade. In its place comes a chill that bites right through to my bones. Ahead of me lies a massive underground lake, a freezing pool. This is the boundary between the 4th and 5th floors of the dungeon. It's a total dead zone, incredibly dangerous. The water here stays below 0 degrees year-round, yet it never freezes. Countless vicious, cold-blooded monsters lurk beneath the surface. But to me right now, this place is heaven. Without a second thought, I dive headfirst into the bottomless freezing depths. The water for dozens of meters around me starts boiling instantly. I let out a roar of pure satisfaction under the water, and then the restless heat inside me finally begins to settle down. I start systematically absorbing those two massive surges of energy. As I sink deeper, the water gets colder, and the pressure gets heavier. I can feel my own bones being crushed by the weight of the water, becoming even more dense. But hey, there's no such thing as a free bath in this dungeon. Just as I've got my eyes closed enjoying this rare moment of cooling down, several eerie blue glints light up in the dark depths of the lake. Eyes. Those are the Frost Lake Bone Snakes, Peak Tier 3 water-type magic beasts. Their bodies are made of transparent cartilage except for their spines, which are bone white. They love shooting toxic ice needles in the water. They're the absolute kings of these depths. They caught the scent of heat. Quickly silent vibrations ripple through the water. One by one, bone snakes over 10 meters long surround me from every direction. These things are smart. They don't just rush in blindly. Instead, they open their mouths and spit out a cloud of bone toxin. The venom spreads fast, instantly turning the water around me into a deadly poison. They're waiting for the perfect moment to strike. My eyes snap open. You're gonna interrupt my bath. You're dead. I don't even bother dodging the venom. Instead, the dark red scales on my body flare open. The magma-like patterns underneath burst into light. Blazing sun, talent surface, temperature spike. A boiling domain erupts with me at the center. Within 10 meters, the water temperature spikes in a single second. From 0 degrees to hundreds of degrees. That deadly venom. Before it can even touch my skin, the heat breaks it down and evaporates it, turning it into harmless gas. As for those 7 snakes trying to ambush me, they're facing total annihilation. For creatures used to extreme cold, this sudden heat is literal hell. Their agonizing screams turn into a stream of murky bubbles. Their cartilage skin starts rotting away instantly in the heat. I might not be as agile in the water as I am on land, but I've got a tail. That thick, powerful tail infused with earth dragon strength lashes out wildly, turning me into a red blur in the water. I lunge forward and sink my teeth into a snake's vital spot, and then I blast a searing hot dragon breath directly into its body. In an instant, that bone snake becomes a roasted snack. The remaining 6 snakes are terrified. They've never seen a monster that can breathe fire underwater. They try to run, but there's no way I'm letting these iced treats get away. I need a huge amount of water-type magic cores to neutralize the fire poison in my system. Slaughter blooms in the deep water. It's a total one-sided massacre. 5 minutes later, the mist on the lake's surface slowly clears. I burst out of the water, the last bone snake's corpse hanging from my mouth, and I wolf it down like a piece of spicy jerky. Right now, my appearance has undergone another subtle transformation. Forged through the extremes of freezing frost and searing heat, the scales on my body, they're no longer that rough, black and red. Instead, they've become sleek and tight, giving off a dull obsidian-like sheen. It's only when I exert my strength that a faint molten glow of dark red magma flows between the gaps of my scales, but most importantly along the bone spikes on my back. Faint light blue patterns are starting to emerge. That's the result of devouring those bone hydras. I've gained the ability to breathe underwater, and the power to regulate extreme temperatures. From this moment on, neither water nor fire can touch me. I let out a long, satisfied burp. Once I finish digesting all this energy, I might even reach the threshold of rank 5. But I can't let my guard down. The second I stepped onto the shore, my sharpened senses caught a scent that felt completely out of place. It wasn't the usual stench of a monster. It was a mix of grease, metal sweat, and some kind of cheap, pungent spice. Having once been a human myself, I know this smell all too well. It's the smell of people. I looked down at the muddy riverbank. There, among the chaotic tracks of various monsters, were clear imprints. The unmistakable tread of boot soles, adventurers. My gaze instantly turned cold. We're in the deepest layers of the dungeon. Ordinary humans couldn't possibly make it down here. Whoever these guys are, they've got to be a fully geared elite squad. What are they after? I thought back to the mangled remains of that earth ape I left kilometers away. Monsters don't scare me. They're straightforward. Might makes right, and that's the only rule they follow. But humans, I fear them. Their cunning traps, their magic scrolls, and the endless power of the factions behind them. That's the real nightmare of this world. I looked up, following the direction of those footprints. They're heading right toward the Earth Dragon's lair, exactly where I just came from. Since you've come this far, don't think you're leaving. There's only room for one hunter in this dungeon. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jack, an adventurer, held up his magic glow stick. His face was pale as he stared at the scene before him. He was a veteran silver rank rogue. He'd raided countless dungeons and seen plenty of gruesome sights. But this made his stomach do backflips. In the clearing ahead of them lay a massive skeleton. It was the remains of an earth-splitting ape, but the bones were picked clean. There wasn't a single scrap of meat left on them. Jack swallowed hard. His voice trembled as he spoke. Captain, based on the tracks here, this peak rank 4 Earth ape, it wasn't just killed, it was slaughtered. And it looks like the killer ate it. They didn't even leave the bones alone. Standing behind Jack was a tall man clad in golden armor. This was the team leader, Raymond, a gold rank berserker. Raymond frowned, reaching down to touch the scorched earth. There are high temperature burn marks too. Could it be a rank 5 magma behemoth? Raymond muttered to himself, puzzled. But looking at these marks, it doesn't feel right. A mage draped in black robes steps forward, a crystal ball clutched in his hand. The crystal pulses with a blinding red light. There are traces of fire elements here, and they're incredibly violent. There's an ancient primal energy lingering, a heavy regal pressure. The mage looks up, his eyes burning with pure greed. Captain, my dragon seeker compass is going crazy. There's a dragon nearby at the mention of that word. The 5 men feel their hearts skip a beat in this world. What does a dragon represent? It means endless, unimaginable wealth. Dragon scales make the ultimate armor. Dragon blood can literally rebuild a man's body. And dragon crystals, those are beyond priceless. Even a low-level sub-dragon would be enough to set them up for life. Right then, Ramon's voice drops low. If it's a level 5 adult dragon, we run immediately. But look at the carnage. Whoever did this was brutal, but they weren't huge. The footprints are only about 3 meters wide. The mage's voice turns shrill with excitement. It's a runaway or maybe an injured hatchling. And it's a high-tier fire dragon too. We're gonna be filthy rich. Greed instantly wipes away any trace of fear. Ramon unsheathes the massive greatsword from his back. His eyes gleam with malice. Jack tracked those footprints, it just finished a meal. It won't have gotten far. Get the dragon nets and the paralytic toxins ready. And remember, try to take it alive. A live dragon is worth 10 times more than a dead one. Jack nods eagerly and huddles down, carefully examining the marks on the ground. But not a single one of them notices that 50 meters above their heads, hidden in the cavern shadows. I'm watching their every move. I'm clinging to the ceiling like a massive gecko, hanging upside down behind a stalactite, between the way the light refracts and my natural talent. I've blended perfectly into the darkness. A cruel smirk plays across my face. You want to play at being hunters? Fine. I'll show you who the real predator is and who's just the prey. I don't just rush down. They've got a gold rank warrior that's about a tier 4 beginner, plus 2 silver ranks which are like tier 3s. Not to mention the mage and the priest. A direct assault would leave me injured even if I win, so I slowly open my jaws and exhale a colorless, odorless mist. This is the new skill I unlocked after devouring all those toxic creatures in the cold spring frost toxic mist. It won't kill them instantly, but it'll paralyze their nerves and slow their reactions to a crawl. The mist creeps down the rock walls like a ghost, silently swallowing the party below. Wait, where did this fog come from? The archer is the first to notice his vision blurring. He sniffs the air but smells nothing. Ramon barks an order. It's probably just a natural dungeon phenomenon. Don't lose focus. Stay on guard. Just then a single drop of thick viscous liquid drips onto the priest's neck at the back of the line. He reaches up instinctively to wipe it away and looks up in confusion. But what meets his eyes is a face staring back at him from directly overhead. In the next heartbeat, a massive tail slams around the priest's throat, crushing his windpipe before he can even scream. The priest was snatched right off his feet and vanished into the pitch-black fog in an instant. Jack, who was leading the way, whipped his head around at the noise, but there was nothing behind him. Where's the priest? Fear spread through the group like a deadly plague. Tight defensive formation now, Raymond bellowed. His battle aura flared to life, trying to burn away the choking mist. But the fog only thickened. From deep within the haze, a bone-chilling crunching sound echoed out. It was the sound of bones being crushed. Damn it, show yourself. The mage waved his staff frantically, hurling fireballs blindly in every direction. The fireballs exploded, but they didn't hit a single thing in the mist. Suddenly, the archer on the left let out a blood-curdling scream. Everyone turned in horror only to see the archer's chest rip open as a massive bloody hole appeared out of thin air. He didn't even see what hit him. Invisibility. It can turn invisible. The mage broke down. This isn't just some hatchling. It's a freaking demon! Back to back, don't you dare split up! Raymond shouted, cold sweat pouring down his face. He realized right then that he'd made a fatal mistake. This wasn't a dragon hunt anymore, they'd walked straight into the jaws of hell. My silhouette flickers within the mist. I swallow the hearts of the priest and the archer, feeling my mana pulse and grow slightly. Human flesh lacks the raw power of a magic beast. But the souls of that mage and the berserker, they look absolutely delicious. Especially that mage with the crystal ball, without making a single sound. I slip right behind him. At that moment, Alan the mage's voice turned into a shrill shriek. "Run, damn it, run!" "Where is he?" The crystal ball in his hand was glowing a deep, bloody red. It meant the monster was close, but it couldn't pinpoint exactly where. "Shut up and get close to me, Captain." Raymond kept his cool like a true gold rank warrior, even though the veins on his sword hand were bulging with tension. He pressed his back against a massive rock to minimize his blind spots. His battle aura pulsed slowly like a steady breath, conserving every bit of energy. For the lethal strike he knew was coming, Jack the thief was huddling. In the shadows at Raymond's feet, trembling like a cornered rat, he gripped his twin poison daggers so hard his knuckles were white. "Captain!" "The archer and the priest, they're completely silent," Jack stammered. "Even a level 5 beast makes a sound when it kills. This thing, it's playing with us." Raymond grunted. "Alan, use that spell and blow this damn fog away. But casting here will attract other monsters. If we don't, we're dead anyway." Alan bit his lip and raised his staff high. He began chanting an ancient cryptic incantation until the gem atop his staff flared with light. Level 3 light magic holy radiance. An orb of light bright as a miniature sun shot upward. It hit the cavern ceiling and exploded, the blinding light tearing through the darkness and piercing the fog. Every single inch within 500 meters was illuminated with terrifying clarity. Jack gasped, "Found it." Less than 30 meters away there, I was clinging to a stalactite like a giant bat. "Attack!" Raymond roared. Alan reacted on pure instinct, unleashing a pre-charged explosive fireball. At the same time, Jack hurled his throwing knives, aiming straight for my eyes. The fireball slammed into the stalactite and erupted. Debris and rock shards fly everywhere, but the dragon's shadow is already gone. Raymond's battle instincts save his life. He snaps his greatsword up in a desperate block, creating a deafening screech of clashing metal, using the shockwave from the fireball's blast. I appear instantly right above Raymond's head. Those metallic shimmering talons of mine slam violently into the spine of his blade. The sheer force of the impact makes Raymond's knees buckle. Raymond's heart is racing in terror. Is this really just a hatchling? This strength is on par with a full-grown earth bear. Since the first strike missed, I don't stick around to play. I whip my tail through the air, using the momentum to spring backward, aiming straight for the weakest link, the mage. Raymond roars, "Someone stop him!" Raymond tries to give chase, but the recoil from that massive clash makes him half a second too slow. Jack the thief grits his teeth and lunges out, trying to block my path with his daggers. Get lost, even though I'm mid-air with nothing to kick off of. I pull off a move that spits in the face of physics. The bone spikes along my back suddenly erupt with a blast of high-temperature gas. Like a jet engine, it forces me onto a new path, slamming me straight into Jack. Jack barely manages to cross his daggers in front of his chest. Those adamantite daggers, when faced with my molten lava armor, are as fragile as glass. I smash right through the blades and bury my shoulder deep into Jack's chest. No flashy moves or techniques here. Just pure raw speed and indestructible scales. Jack's chest caves in instantly, sending him flying. By the time he hits the stone wall and slides down, He's nothing more than a mangled mess. 3 kills in an instant. Now only Raymond and Alan are left. Alan has completely lost his mind. He crushes the amulet hanging around his neck. It's an emergency instant cast fire ring of repulsion. A wave of crimson flames explodes outward with him at the center. Trying to push me back, I almost want to laugh. Using fire against a torch dragon. I open my maw and take a massive breath toward that ring of fire Devour. That violent, raging fire ring is sucked right into my mouth. The next second, I'm standing right in front of Alan. He collapses to the floor begging, "Don't kill me." I'm a noble, I have gold. My claws flash out in a casual sweep. And Alan's life is snuffed out just like that. I flick my tongue out, catching a single drop of scalding mage blood. Not bad! The mana is quite pure. Then I turn around and look at the last man standing in the clearing, the gold rank berserker Raymond. The rage has left Raymond, now replaced by an eerie, deathly calm in his eyes. He glares at me, his voice sounding raspy and hollow. "How can a monster like you exist in the deep layers of the dungeon? You're no mere beast." "You fight like an assassin." I don't give him an answer. I just elegantly flick the blood off my talons. I crouch low on all fours, coiling my muscles to spring. Raymond takes a deep breath as his aura begins to skyrocket. Gold rank battle art Lion's earth-shattering strike. Raymond roars as he becomes one with his blade, transforming into a golden meteor charging at me with an unstoppable force. This is the strongest strike of his life, and it will be his last. Facing a blow that could split a mountain, I don't move an inch. I don't dodge. And I don't bother using my bone shield. My body begins to glow with a deep red light. But this time it isn't heat, it's an absolute soul-piercing cold. Thermal reversal catalyzed right onto my claws. In an instant it was coated in a layer of eerie blue ice, the bone-chilling lethal toxin of the cold abyss. That massive sword blazing with searing battle energy was inches away from cutting me down, when my claw slammed right into the side of the blade with pinpoint precision. A sharp piercing crack echoed through the air. The giant sword shattered into a million pieces. Raymond's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. With one swift motion, I drove my claw straight through his heart, then I ripped it back out. Raymond's body slumped over cold and lifeless. It's over. All 5 of them gone, but I wasn't in the mood to feed just yet. I looked down at my right claw, noticing a slight tremor. That finishing move was pretty badass. But taking the full force of a gold rank warrior head on, the recoil still managed to split the skin between my claws. Guess humans aren't totally useless after all. I started looting their bodies for anything useful. Finding a few red health potions, some magic scrolls, and a fat pouch of gold coins. But then my eyes landed on something interesting on that mage Alan's hand. A silver ring, a spatial ring. This is exactly what I needed. These things are usually locked with a mental seal. If you try to force it open, the whole dimension collapses and everything inside is gone forever. I stared at the ring for a moment, then I did something unexpected. I tossed the ring right into my mouth, closing my eyes. I tapped into the mental energy surging within me. For a torch dragon sight brings the day, and closed eyes bring the night. We are the born masters of the mind, even if I'm just a hatchling. Crushing the lingering spirit of a dead human mage is like bringing a nuke to a knife fight. I shattered the seal and spat the ring back out. With just a thought, a mountain of loot tumbled onto the ground. Among the junk was a parchment scroll. I flicked it open with a claw. It was a map. An incredibly detailed layout of the entire dungeon. Right now I'm at the 45th floor right above the Abyss of Despair. The 40th floor is the Sea Valley Wastes, the 30th the Shadow Woods. The 20th floor is the Goblin Labyrinth, and the 10th is the Proving Grounds. The first floor is the Gate of the Abyss, the humans' main defensive line. Along with the map, I found a copy of Adventurer's Weekly. On the cover was a massive magical photo. It was the Sky Palace of the True Dragons shimmering in gold. The headline screamed in bold letters, "Holy Land of the Dragons. The Emperor's second son Ao Qiong reveals god-tier talent." He's been named the next clan leader. In the photo, that golden hatchling was perched arrogantly atop a dragon pillar, basking in the worship of every living race. His scales were dazzling and his eyes were filled with nothing but pure, unadulterated arrogance. But tucked away in this corner of the article, there was a tiny, easily missed note. It said the Emperor actually sired twins, but the other egg was a dud and was disposed of. All to ensure the purity of the future leader's bloodline. I stared at those words. My eyes burned with a cold, murderous rage. Fine then, young leader Ao Qiong, huh? If you all wanted me to be a dead egg so badly, then I'll return as a god of death and pay you all a visit. I took a deep breath, forcing down the violent urge to tear everything apart. I'm not nearly strong enough yet. I need more power. I looked back at the map. Right next to the marker for the 40th floor Sea Valley Wastes was a bright red skull icon. Next to it was a small warning. It looked incredibly dangerous and the warning sign couldn't be clearer. Undead catastrophe zone, no living entry allowed. High-level undead activity reported. A cruel dark smile spread across my face. With the fire of the ancient torch dragon inside me, these undead freaks are nothing but high-grade soul fuel. Plus, these walking corpses usually hoard a massive amount of bones. And magic crystals, it's the perfect place to grind, target confirmed. I fold up the map, tuck it into my spatial ring, and then slip the ring onto one of my horns like a collar. Later deep dungeon, next stop the Sea Valley Wastelands. I follow the path of the ancient elevator shafts marked on the map, pushing my way toward the upper floors. But when I hit the 40th floor, even with my inherited memories of a true dragon, I feel a wave of pure physical repulsion. There's no dirt here, no rocks, just pale bone dust under my feet. All I can see is a vast white desert of death. The air is dead still, yet gray ash drifts down like falling snow. The map shows that the entrance to the 30th floor is at the edge of this ancient sea inside a fortress ruin called the Wall of Sighs. Suddenly, the sea of bone dust beneath me starts vibrating violently. The ground collapses instantly, forming a massive quicksand vortex. Next thing I know, countless skeletal arms burst out of the powder, clawing at me like crazy. They aren't just flailing around though. They lock together, forming a massive white net of bone. Trying to drag me into the bottomless abyss, I just snort, flex my leg muscles and slam my lava-armored claw down hard. War Stomp, a red shockwave explodes from the impact point, shattering the waves of bone dust within 50 meters. Under the heat and vibration, those skeletal arms snap piece by piece, turning into fine powder. But the attack isn't over. Just as the dust starts to settle, the moon above flickers, accompanied by a piercing shrill laugh. The bone dust in the air doesn't fall. It hangs there, swirling into shapes. In a blink, hundreds of skeletal monster birds appear. They dive at me like bombers, tearing through the air with a deafening screech, swarming me from all sides. I raise my right claw and swat the first bird, right out of the sky, crushing it to bits. Suddenly, a cold, raspy voice echoes, "It's useless as long as the soul remains. The bones are infinite!" I look up. Behind the swarm of birds, sitting on a floating throne made entirely of human skulls, is a figure in tattered black robes. He's gripping a staff topped with a massive green gemstone, an undead lord, the Lich Saza. The Lich lets out a skin-crawling laugh. "I thought you were just a common drake, but you're actually mutated fire dragons. That skeleton of yours will be the prize of my collection." As he waves his staff, the bone fragments I just smashed start fusing back together in midair, becoming sharper and even more vicious. I narrow my eyes. No wonder this place is called the Forbidden Zone. For a normal beast that only knows how to bite and claw, fighting an enemy like this would be a literal nightmare. I smirk. "Did you say soul?" I ignore the swarm of birds diving at me and drop my guard completely. I let those sharp ancient blades scrape against my armor, sending sparks flying everywhere. I slowly open my mouth, but deep in my throat, things aren't the same as usual. Instead of a surge of red lava, a flash of holy light begins to glow. This is the Torch Dragon's original fire of time, the absolute nightmare for any undead spirit. "Time to see how a soul barbecue tastes," the Lich screams instantly. What kind of fire is this? The magic shield he was so proud of completely melts away in the face of that golden light. That overwhelming power is tearing his soul right out of his bones. Around me, the bone birds that were attacking suddenly drop, turning back into lifeless piles of bone. I lunge forward with everything I've got, and that massive soul, as strong as a level 5 human mage, is swallowed whole into my stomach. A sensation I've never felt before washes over me. It's not like the fullness or the heat you get from devouring flesh. This time it's a refreshing mental storm surging straight into my skull. In that moment, it feels like my brain is being ripped apart and put back together. Centuries of the lich's necromancy knowledge and mental mastery techniques, and even the deepest secrets of this map all flood into me as fragmented memories. They're forced into my mind, but more importantly, I've mastered a new power: undead enslavement. I look at a massive mammoth skeleton nearby. I give a low command: rise. That giant heap of bones dormant for who knows how many years actually begins to tremble and stand up. Inside its eye sockets, 2 faint golden soul fires ignite a spark of the fire I gave it. It's a bit fragile, but it'll make for decent cannon fodder to scout the way. I nod with satisfaction, then I look up, staring toward the ruined fortress at the edge of the wasteland. The entrance to the 30th floor, which used to be a complete mystery, now holds no secrets from me. A human slave hunting party is stationed there. I completely mask my presence. Just 500 meters ahead in a clearing, I can hear human voices, and these aren't your typical noisy adventurers. These commands are low disciplined and accompanied by the sound of heavy machinery. I climb into the canopy of a 100-meter tall tree and look down. What I see makes my pupils snap shut. It's a temporary camp, and right in the middle stands a massive steel cage etched with golden runes. Dozens of knights in silver armor are patrolling the area. It's the Dragon Slayer mercenaries, one of the most notorious and powerful hunting organizations in the human world. They don't waste time on normal monsters. They specialize in hunting sub-dragons. There are even rumors that they've successfully taken down true, pure-blooded dragons. And inside that massive cage, they've trapped a creature. It's an emerald land dragon. It's only about 5 or 6 meters long. Its entire body covered in scales as clear and green as fine jade. It's a beautiful creature. But right now it's being subjected to some sick inhuman torture. A middle-aged man in white priestly robes stands in front of the cage, holding a staff that glows with a soft white light. He has a look of fake mercy on his face as he taps the staff against the dragon's belly. That soft light isn't healing it, it's corroding it. That's high concentration holy light. For dark attribute creatures or monsters, this energy is pure, unadulterated agony. Like acid eating through skin, the earth dragon's soft belly scales charred black instantly. The dragon convulsed in pure agony. Good, keep that pain coming. The priest nodded with a sick grin, turning to an assistant holding a crystal flask. Terror and suffering, that's the best way to get the dragon blood pumping. We need this batch for an emergency, hurry up and catch it. The assistant shoved a tube straight into the dragon's raw, festering wound. Crimson blood surged through the pipe, filling the crystal flask to the brim. On the other side of the camp, piles of loot were stacked high. There were flayed dragon hides, shattered dragon eggs, and the dismembered remains of several drakes, being tossed into boiling pots by men who looked like chefs. Dragon soup for dinner tonight. This trip was definitely worth the effort. This emerald dragon is a rare mutant. She'll fetch at least 5 million gold coins at the capital. And she's got eggs in her belly. Talk about a buy one get one free deal. High up in the canopy, I watched it all in silence. The look in that dragon's eyes, it reminded me of my own mother's helplessness. That desperate look of a mother, clinging to life just for the sake of her unborn child. I let out a heavy breath, then blurred forward, cutting down the assistant and snatching the flask of dragon blood. I tilted my head back and downed it in one go. The blood, thick with agony and terror, hit my stomach, igniting like a wildfire. I licked my lips, and the bitter taste sent the killing intent in my eyes soaring to the breaking point. By then, the crowd finally realized what was happening. The knights around Dix reacted fast, drawing their swords and closing in. The priest shrieked in terror. Where did this scum come from? Kill him. The glow of their energy locked onto me, but I just calmly unlocked the cage. The emerald dragon stared at me, trembling with fear. I didn't say a word. I just stepped in front of her to shield her. I looked at the group of terrified humans and said, "Now watch as I send this trash straight to meet their maker." Just 1 minute later, all 32 elites of the Dragonslayer mercenaries were nothing but shriveled corpses. I stood before that massive steel cage, inside the emerald dragon I'd just saved. Lay slumped on the ground, weak and broken. She looked at me, this monster, reeking of blood and radiating a terrifying draconic pressure. Her instinct was to submit. But deep in her eyes, there was still that flicker of motherly caution. She shielded her swollen belly. I looked at her and asked, "Are you afraid of me?" I held up a finger and a single drop of gold-red blood condensed at the tip. This wasn't normal blood. This was imperial blood containing the essence of the torch dragon. "Open up," I commanded. The dragon didn't dare refuse. She opened her mouth with a tremble. The drop of blood flew in, and the festering wound on her belly began to knit back together before our eyes. Her dull green scales suddenly erupted with a brilliant, blinding emerald light. Her body surged in size instantly, and her power level smashed right through Tier 2, successfully evolving into the ranks of Tier 3 magical beasts. But even better, the moment that egg inside her touched the imperial blood, it let out a thunderous, powerful heartbeat. That's a future Dragon King right there. I've cleared out every floor from the 30th down to the 50th. I turned my back to her and said coldly, "That is your new territory. Take your child and go there. As long as I'm breathing, no one will touch you." I won't bore you with the details of the lesser monsters. Soon I reached the 20th floor, the goblin labyrinth. It was a massive underground city, a graveyard of rusted gears, steam pipes, and deadly traps. Warning: high energy levels detected. A harsh mechanical screech echoed through the maze. Tens of thousands of mutated goblins, piloting clunky makeshift steam mechs, stared in sheer terror at their radar screens, at a dot so red it was practically purple. That light was moving way too fast. Like a bolt of crimson lightning, it ignored every wall in the labyrinth, tearing a straight path upward. "Fire, open fire now!" The Goblin King shrieked, and a literal wall of rusted shells, gas canisters, and even suicide drones rained down toward the red blur. A low growl rumbled from within the red shadow. Then, a pillar of gold and red fire erupted, instantly melting a tunnel 100 meters wide, leading straight to the floors above without even slowing down. I shot upward like a meteor, smashing through everything in my way. The 10th floor was the proving grounds, a buffer zone built by human nations to train their young knights. Today happened to be the graduation day for the Holy Empire's Royal Knight Academy. Hundreds of young nobles in shimmering silver armor, mounted on tall noble steeds, were being led by their mentors to hunt packs of low-level skeletons. "Look, what is that?" A young female knight suddenly pointed toward the abyss and screamed. Everyone looked up, watching as the pitch-black entrance to the depths was suddenly dyed an eerie dark red. A suffocating heat wave, accompanied by a violent tremor, came surging up from the deep. "Fall back, everyone, fall back now!" The mentor's face went pale as he frantically waved his flag. Too late! The earth shattered and I burst forth from the ground. The moment I landed, the massive shockwave tossed every man and horse within 100 meters aside like they were nothing. But I didn't attack them, I just gave them a cold, indifferent look. These so-called human elites were pathetic. I just shook my head. Is this the final stop? Before the surface, I looked up. About 1,000 meters above me, a massive magic circle, pulsing with blue light, hung in the air. The Abyss Seal, the Gate of Size. It was the absolute defense built by humans and dragons to keep the monsters from escaping the dungeon. They say that even a rank 6 overlord monster would be turned to ash the moment it touched it. In the very center of that magic circle hung a giant dragon tooth. It was a tooth from a true dragon, acting as the core and radiating a crushing pressure to suppress all non-human life below. Looking at that tooth, I smirked. Ao Qiong. I recognized that scent, the tooth of the current Dragon Emperor Ao Qiong. "Did you really think you could just leave me to rot down here?" The bone wings on my back snapped open, and I slowly began to rise into the air. As I ascended, the air itself began to warp. The knights on the ground could only watch in stunned silence. If you brought me into this world, why throw me away? And if you were going to throw me away, why didn't you just kill me? I hit full speed instantly. I didn't use any tricks, I just used my own head to smash through. I slammed right into that Dragon Emperor's tooth and the sky break open. I'm back. Better wash your neck and wait.